Welcome once again to Illuminating Leadership, your go-to podcast for learning about leadership in all its forms from amazing industry and community leaders around the globe. I'm your host, Beth Johnson, and I'm here today with my guest, Mary Olhauser. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you for having me, Beth. This is exciting.
Absolutely. I was excited to be able to meet with you today. And you guys, I am thrilled to have Mary as my guest. She is not only a full-time realtor for Century 21 Morrison, serving the Bismarck, Mandan, and surrounding area here in North Dakota, but in 9 short years, she has amassed 14 industry awards, including the Quality Service Award for the last 5 years running. Now that's impressive. And if you Google Mary, you'll see a 5-star rating from almost 200 reviewers. So I encourage you to go check her out. Now, not only that, but she belongs to several community groups, delivers Meals on Wheels for the Senior Center, helps with backpacks for kids, and stays actively involved with the Realtor Board. Oh my goodness. Yet, Mary says her most important accomplishment is serving as mom to 5 amazing children, grandma to 13 beautiful grandbabies, and wife to her awesome husband, Randy, for almost 44 years. And we that have been married a while know that's a job in and of itself.
Yes, I said I will not train anyone else.
That's amen. Well, so Mary, I get a little exhausted reading all that. How do you do it all? Or maybe more importantly, what's your why for all that you do personally and professionally?
Well, I love family. I'm sorry, I'm going to get a little flustered because I love talking about my kids, my grandkids, my husband. I love this industry. I love being a realtor. It was about 10 years ago, Randy said one day, he goes, Century 21 Morrison has a learning night. And I've known you always wanted to be a realtor. Come on and do it. He goes, go to the class, see what's involved. So he's the one that got me into this. I absolutely love it. I love helping my clients. My clients end up being a friend and they become close friends. I get invited to their birthday parties, their kids' birthday parties. I get invited to weddings when it's a single couple that I'm helping buy a house. It's just a lot of fun, but yet I watch the community and I see where the needs are. And like you had mentioned, yes, I am involved with the Backpack for Kids, every community. And we talked about this. Every community always says, oh, that's not in our community. We don't have homeless kids. We don't have kids that go hungry. We do. Everyone does. Whether you're a small town or whether you're a good-sized town like Bismarck, Mandan is, or if you're a big city, the need is there. The need is also for the seniors. There's a lot of times, when I am taking a meal to a senior and they tell me they haven't eaten since yesterday's meal was brought to them. That scares me, because they're living paycheck to paycheck on only their Social Security. And, whether they're living in a house and the house is paid for, there's still bills. There's the MDU bills, there's the water bills, there's, medicine bills and things like that. So I thrive on that and I love it. My kids have always been involved in different things and I'm right behind them, wanting to be involved. And now that we have grandkids that are in the school system, when they're selling the tickets to, the raffles to help make money for their school, I'm right beside them because it's important. I get back from my clients who use me, who I help buy a house and I help sell. Yes, I make a commission on that, but I don't use that commission as my sole. I want to spread it. And I do as much as I possibly can. And, I love it. And I guess I can't talk enough about it.
Well, I feel like that's evident in all you do. I've gotten to know you over the years and gotten to know of your, I hate the word reputation because it can sound so negative or positive, but in this case, it is absolutely positive. You know, your reputation in the industry for being a heart-centered leader and very human focused. And that's what I'm hearing in a lot of what you said, what you just said, right? And I'm also hearing that, I mean, yes, we're all in business to make money. We have to support ourselves and pay our bills, but there's so much more reward that can come from connecting with the human on the other end of that transaction. And it sounds like you get a great deal of joy from that.
I do. I do. Like sometimes people will say, what's your favorite word? Um, to me, it's gratitude. You can't live without it. No one achieves success and does what they do without the help of others. So, gratitude is my main word.
Yeah.
I love it. I want to give back to what my successes, I knew this would happen. But it's gratitude for everything. And I think I pass that on to my kids too, that they know what's important in life, you know.
I had struggled with that early on in life until I studied about it. And ironically, just this morning was listening to a podcast about gratitude and how it can make an impression on the physiology of your body for a period of 5 to 6 weeks. In the exercise that they were talking about, which was taking a person you are genuinely grateful for, writing them a letter, seeking them out, and then presenting that to them. And I thought, my gosh, that's a little bit of a scary exercise, but the research results that come behind that were phenomenal. So
I would bet. I would believe that because it's such a powerful word. And a lot of people don't realize how much how much I feel with my clients, the gratitude I get from them. And, whether it's an interaction that I'm with them for 6 weeks, 8 weeks solid, helping them buy or sell a house, or whether it's a fast transaction and I've only interacted with them for a couple of weeks, gratitude is always there. It's very important to me.
Now, I usually ask this later in the podcast, but it kind of seems relative now with everything that we've covered that you do. What do you do for fun or to take care of yourself? Because we know self-care is a big topic these days. We know that we do get involved in so much work and so much personal that sometimes it takes a toll on our bodies and our minds. How do you maintain yourself to keep that all elusive work-life balance?
Well, our life revolves around our lake home on Lake Isabel, and now we are building. We have had 2 trailers out there for years, since 2006. So I shouldn't say for years. It's been a while though. And, we just enjoy the lake because we know that is where all the kids are going to be.
Yeah.
And my self reward is having them all there, or the majority of them. I mean, we're quite a crew. And I like to always just thank the kids. I try to once a year do a family vacation. And it's mainly for the kids because I want to see, the thrills. If they haven't been there before, it's like, oh, I remember when Grandma and Grandpa took us here, and all of the kids are with us. And when I get those refreshing weekends, kind of gets me going for a little while again. And then in the summertime, when they're out there at the lake, and I have so many people that'll say, oh my gosh, how do you cook for everybody?
I was thinking the same thing.
And it's like, well, crock pots are amazing. And so is the grill, and a lot of times everybody pitches in.
That is one way in which you're absolutely leading in a beautiful way. Now let's talk about in your business, what would you say is your governing leadership philosophy as you run your real estate business?
as I got into being a realtor, there I could see the need for just being more involved with our board and the Bismarck Mandan Board of Realtors. So, my broker said, Mary, you really should be a director, see if you like it, and everything. And I didn't realize that path is going to take me further. I was a director for 3 years and enjoyed it because I wanted to know where this industry is going. It's my business. And, and of course, we don't run our business, the market does, whether
Yes.
it's a buying market or a selling market. So it's not something that we can personally take hold of, but we can always better ourselves, whether it's me, myself, and knowing the laws, the rules, or passing that on to my other coworkers and members. So after I was a director for 3 years, I ran for vice president and got that position. And then once you're as a vice president, you go up the chain. This year, I was vice president last year. So 2023, I am now president-elect. In November, we have our big party per se, where everybody gets moved up the chain. And so then I will move into the president position for 2024. And I enjoy kind of being there at the moments when, like, for instance, this year we're changing our forms, our purchase agreement forms. We're going from 6 pages to 9 pages. And it's to better both our buyers and our sellers and protecting them when they're going through probably the largest transaction they're going to do. I feel being a part of what's happening, we get to go to, like, the beginning of May, I'll be going to Washington, D.C. and spending a week down there and going through, like, their Congress and their House and some of the things that we actually have on our legislature right now. So it'll be fun to listen to what's happening in the other states,
right,
and how their sales are going, or what's happening. And it's common, not just in this industry, but a lot of people say, North Dakota always trends 5 years behind everyone else. We're not typically the same, as what's happening around the country, but it's interesting to know what they are experiencing.
How important is it for you as a North Dakota real estate agent, or real estate agent anywhere, I guess, to understand what's happening in your border states, or in the state as a whole, so that you can better serve both in-state and out-of-state clients wanting to move into North Dakota?
Very important. Coming to a topic of that, Minnesota had people coming, what they call wholesalers, where they would come to you and say, hey, I would like to buy your house for X amount of money. And the people would think, oh, that's actually pretty good, because I'm thinking I want to downsize, or, move where the grandkids are and so forth. And all of a sudden, you find out that the person who you thought was buying the house isn't actually buying it, because that person went out and got a buyer and sold the house for $50,000 more. And they're making that money. And you're not selling, you have really no idea who you're selling to. And this was happening in Minnesota. So we had gotten drift of it on the Fargo side, and Grand Forks. And we got a hold of our legislators and said, we don't want this in North Dakota. So it was prime time, because our legislature started and we had a bill going on it, and actually were able to stop it. so that it can't happen in North Dakota. We're
Fantastic.
protecting you as the consumers.
Right.
So there were hours I was up at the Capitol listening to everybody talking and meeting with our fellow agents because I also, being I'm president-elect, I'm also on the North Dakota Real Estate Association. So, and that is agents from all over North Dakota, Grand Forks, Williston, Fargo, Grand Forks, everywhere. And we would always be on a Zoom and talking about this and saying, okay, where's this at in the legislation and what's happening here and there. So it's very important to know what's going on in other states because it tends to come across the border at some point.
Okay, that's good to know. And it's good to know that you're out there protecting the consumers. I mean, I think I understood that, but not quite to that degree, which makes me, which I was sitting here thinking, all of a sudden, a fee that you pay a realtor to help you becomes a blessing, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
if you're on your own and fall prey to that wholesaler and lose 50,000, that's a lot compared to,
Yeah.
that 2% or 3% or whatever the percent is these days, that you have a realtor step in on your behalf.
Absolutely, because who wouldn't want to have an extra 50,000 or sometimes less, but sometimes it can even be more than that in your own pocket where you thought you were getting a good deal and this person or company is going out and all of a sudden they're selling your house for more than, and they're pocketing that. So it is very important to know what's happening on our borders. And I like being a part of that. And we have some other great agents that also want to be a part of it. And I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful for our legislators who are listening to us.
Yes. Well, and I see that as like another example of fantastic leadership because you have an opportunity. We all choose the degree to which we get involved. And the reason I wanted you on this podcast is because I knew you were involved, not nearly to the degree that I have learned over the last few days. And that's leadership, right? That's somebody in my community who has a role, a leadership role in her business, but is also using her network and her position outside of making money to make my environment, I don't know if the word's safer, but better. And I know that someone out there is advocating for me, basically. And so here's another question is, what is the greatest change that you've been able to affect through your position on the board as you've kind of come up the ranks? And it could be anywhere along the way.
Yeah. I don't know if I could take that into saying I've done it myself. There's always a team, there's always a committee, which is awesome because they work hard. They work sometimes, endless. I know with our new forms that are coming out, they have been 2 years in the works. So, to thank the agents, I was not a part of that board. For those agents and that attorney that works with us, we have our own realtor attorney, and to make sure that all the wording is proper. And like I said, basically to protect both you as a buyer, both you as a seller, to make the transactions easier. There's so much out there, I'll hear people say, I can save that money. I can save that commission. And then, partway through, they have issues, whether it's with the appraisal or the home inspection, or there's other issues that have come up, and then we get the call. And I'm going, I'm sorry, my code of ethics won't allow me to help you, as much as I would love to, I can't.
That's important to understand. That's an industry. I mean, I know that's with Century 21 and the Morrison Agency, but is that an industry-wide code of ethics so that our listening public understand?
Yes, if we pass that realtor test, we are bound by the code of ethics of North Dakota. And Yeah, some will say, well, I sent off some CMEs to a guy who wants to sell his house himself and stuff. And that's okay. I'll get a call a lot of times, even just for taxes here in town. Bismarck's kind of going through where they're sending out the tax letters and want to raise everybody's property value higher so they can get taxes. And I've had actually several calls where people say, can you send me some comps to like my house to show them
Mhm.
that it's not going up this much or that and everything. And absolutely, I want to help them. I had to do it for my own house because I got a letter and it was like, not a chance. I'm sorry. I'm going to pull some comps and I'm going to call you and you can come walk through my house. And I did that and it saved me on the taxes. They weren't going to raise it as high as they wanted to. So, I mean, that kind of stuff, yes. But if they're truly involved where they're halfway through a transaction and then there's issues and there's
Mhm.
problems, we can't step in anymore because it's past that point.
One of the things I love about you is you, for me, demonstrate a true leader's ability to lead with a heart, like we talked about before, and being very human centric, but also there's a fighter in there, right? There's a
Always.
fight. Exactly. There's that little sass that says, all right, I'm up for it. I'm up for the challenge. Bring it. We're going to do this.
Always, yes. Because I mean, sometimes if I feel there is something going on and it's not right, I'm gonna start digging and checking, and like Randy says, if I'm gonna go buy a new car, I'm bringing you along because I know you can knock off 5 or 10,000 bucks off of that. Because
That's fantastic.
so
So,
you know
so what do you say to leaders who feel like that's not possible? I mean, I came up in a corporate industry where I worked with, obviously, it was heavily dominated by men. And I've always been a believer in connect with the human first, and the rest is going to fall in place, provided you do, your job along the way. And along the way, I heard not only myself, but other women called weak or soft or coddling or mothering or whatever, when in fact, the point was entirely missed, right? That you can put your whole heart into it, but also be tough as nails. So I thought that I bring it up on the podcast for those who've been through it so they understand, one, you're not alone, and two, we can change it. But then what do you say to the up and coming? Like, I work now a lot with this now generation,
yeah.
our Gen Zs and our millennials that are going to be leaders and entrepreneurs, and they're going to have a huge impact on our world. So what do you tell them about combining those two traits, and is it okay?
I told an agent when I first started, and I started in 2004, and she was Realtor of the Year in 2006. And I distinctly remember coming to every Tuesday morning, we have an office meeting, kind of say, hey, what we've got for sale coming up or what's on the market, and just kind of knowledge. And the room is full of my peers. A lot of them are, at that time were in the industry much longer than I was. I was only in the 2 years. And we came to that meeting, or I came to the meeting, and we were all congratulating her because she became Realtor of the Year. And in the back of my mind, I immediately said, how can I do that? How did she do that? How does that work? That's probably impossible. But in this industry, as you say, some places and some workplaces are more men, how can I say it, that men kind of lead the way and everything. There are definitely more women than men in the real estate industry. I don't know why, but there is,
Well,
and then
do you think that we're more service oriented? I mean, it seems to be that we have very big servants' hearts. We're nurturers by nature. And it seems like everything you've described in what you do is serving, is helping someone achieve a dream and guiding them along the way so that it's the easiest path to get there.
True. And that's maybe why, I guess I don't know. I've never dug into the statistics of why, but I know there is more women. And then it always comes to fact that safety is always in mind. Um,
Yes.
we have a protocol at our own office that if somebody wants to see a house and it's vacant, and they just call the office and say, hey, they want to see it, and we've never met the person, we tend to either take somebody with. We have asked them to come to the office to meet us here and then drive to the property themselves. But I have had a lot of out of town because I do so much rural.
Mhm.
And when that happens, I wait and tell them that I can't see them until in the afternoon, and I take my husband with. And I had one scary, very, very scary episode a few years back. And safety for women is just very, very, it's out there. And we hear it more than once or twice a year where realtors in other states, they go to a vacant property and they're beaten and
Right.
left for dead or taken and things like that. So we have protocols, and if we're out there and we feel a little insecure, there's been times where other agents also, they get to the property and two guys get out of the car and they just automatically in front of them, we have a code of what we say and call the office, and then the office knows we're a little worried, so they send somebody to that address.
That actually settles my anxiety a little bit because I have a few friends in realty, and I've never really addressed this with them because I sit here worried for not the single person woman, right? The entity that goes out and you don't know what you're up against. I mean, men could be subject to it as well, but like you said, the industry is so dominated by women that I knew there had to be something in place that helped you, and I'm super glad to hear. Plus, I watch way too many crime shows. So I hear the worst of the worst.
Oh, and I've heard some pretty bad things, and sometimes we have education where we have to sit through 3 hours if safety is our mandatory for the year, and stuff on our education. We have to keep 12 hours of education each year, and sometimes safety is one of them. It's always just such a good reminder. I still look back at the time when I was out in Streeter at a vacant property. I had a client I didn't feel very good with. When I talked to him on the phone, it just sounded unsafe. And I told my husband, I said, you're coming with me. And when I opened the door to the house to let him in there, he did comment about Randy being in the pickup. So it was scary. And now that I think back to it, it was like he had other things in mind. And thank goodness,
that you thought ahead and Randy came with. I mean, because Streeter's out there and you're in an empty home and you would have been by yourself.
Right.
But did you follow you obviously then followed some instinct or followed an intuition that you had.
Yes. And our broker says that all the time. She said, you just, if it has any type of feeling that it's not going to be good, follow that feeling, because it can be just a devastating situation then if you don't. So yeah, sometimes, and like they always say, women have good intuitions.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it, and I do to that point, because it's like I'm not doing this, just to make the money, to get out there and meet everyone. And yes, it pays the bills, but I want to be safe and I want to come home at night.
Well, and I'm so glad you shared that. And I love what your broker has said, because I too, throughout my years, have found that women are highly in tune, and we do have a high level of intuition. And sometimes we ignore it, and not to our benefit. And other times we follow it, and we're so glad we did, like taking your husband to that home. So
Yeah.
I'd like to suggest to our listeners that no matter your industry, or no matter your job or your home environment, when you feel it, and she says the right things, it can be so visceral, or it can be sweating, or stomach ache, or
Yep.
hand sweats, or the thought that pops in your head that says, "Ooh, I don't like this." Follow that gut intuition.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to, and I think I interrupted you, so I apologize.
Yeah,
You were
no.
talking, you were talking about watching that gal win Realtor of the Year, and thinking, "Oh my, that could never be me." Yet immediately went furious. How did she do it? What happened? How long would it take me? Could I? Right? And we all tend to fight with that excitement, and then that negative voice that comes in our heads and goes, "Oh, it's never going to happen." How did you get there? How did you bridge that gap from I don't know if it'll ever happen for me, to winning that award last year?
Well, and I guess I honestly can't pinpoint. Every year I just felt like I was getting a little better. I was getting a little more involved. Um, I was involving myself with community, because Realtor of the Year, like I was explaining to my siblings when they had heard about it and they live out of state, they were going, "Oh my God, your sales." And I'm going, but Realtor of the Year is not just the sales. It's about what I do for the community, and how my clients perceive me, and things like that. How many quality services that I get, and I'm consistent. I get them every year. My clients, give me good praise, and we at Century 21 have a quality. It's kind of a service pledge. And I love it. We are the only company that has it. And I tell my clients, we have it both on the buyer and the seller side. And when I have my clients sign this, I tell them, we're the only ones that have this pledge, that if I do or say anything and you don't like it, you can call my broker and give me 12 hours to rectify it. And if we can't rectify it, we'll find you a new agent. And I always tell my clients, I've never been to the point, I consider that being fired. And I
Yep.
haven't yet. They just look at me and go, "Oh, I can't imagine." And I said, "Well, we're not done with the transaction yet."
Right.
But that's how I, put myself. And then after everything is all done, Century 21 sends out a survey because they want to know if I'm representing Century 21 Morrison, and Century 21 is a brand. They want to know that our agents are doing what they should be doing. So that's where the quality service comes in then, is after the transaction, and they fill out the survey and they give me up to 100%. I usually kid with them and I say, I know surveys, 5-10 minutes
Right.
out of your time. It's a little annoying. Just give me tens all the way down. But they are, but then I turn around and say, and I want you to be honest, if there were things that I can improve in, that's the only way I get to know if I can improve and where I need to be improving in.
There seem to be two schools of leadership, right? You've got, and I really support what you just said. I love the fact that there's that quality pledge. Because to me, that speaks to a company and leadership that says we're all in, we're engaged in getting better, and we mean it. So not only do we support and want our agents to do better and be better, but we're not afraid of the honesty.
Correct.
And then the other side of the coin, which is who I'd have you speak to in this, is those who say, "OMG, why would I put myself out there like that why am I going to allow the client to run the process? Or what if they say something horrible, or all the fears that that side of leadership have? How would you coach them to understand that you don't have to be afraid and it can actually make your business and you better?
If you're true to yourself, that you can say, I can be a realtor, and I can give the service, and I can do what I know is best, and I'm following my code of ethics. Um, there shouldn't be anything bad that, a seller or a buyer, is going to say. And, we're not perfect. We're only human. And that's what I tell everyone is, just be you, be human. And do what you know is right there too. If you're thinking, I don't know if this is right, it probably isn't.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And just follow that. If they follow that, there shouldn't be issues. And you always have, the negotiating back and forth, either if it's on the price or if it's on the repairs for after the home inspection and stuff. And, sometimes your buyer or seller may not feel like, gosh, she didn't really work for me. She didn't get me what I wanted repaired, or she didn't, we're giving them this and now we're giving them in repairs and things like that. And, ultimately, I'm just coaching them. They're the final decision of what they want, and everything. But it always works out in the end. You just got to be true to yourself and believe in yourself.
And even if you do have someone that comes back and complains, if you've been true to yourself, you've chosen the right path, you've done everything ethically, and I would say communicated very well along the way, then is it true that at the end of that process, you can separate that complaint from yourself, right? That is something that was within that person and you couldn't control anyway.
Absolutely.
Mary, is there anything that you've learned the hard way that you would like to share with up and coming or current leaders, either entrepreneurial or corporate or in the office?
I don't know if I'd say the hard way. We always get a lot of coaching, and when you're starting out and you're not making a lot of money, because you're creating a database, and when I used to always hear my peers going, door knock. Oh, I don't like it. Cold call. Oh,
Mhm.
another one I'm not good at. And they would give you advice, and it was always like, you learn the hard way that they've done this for years.
Yeah.
And they know how to get those clients and where you got to seek them out, and even just talking to your friends, handing out a card. I'm even a little, I don't do it probably as much as I should. My husband, he's on the other end. He'll go, well, she's got a card if you need one. and so I love having him around a lot of times too, because it's like, oh yeah, I should give you my card. And Randy's always a step ahead of me.
I think sometimes it's easier to advocate. A lot of times it's easier to advocate for somebody else than it is yourself, because there's nothing on the hook for you, right? And
Correct.
so, yeah, keep those fans around you as often as possible. Put those grandbabies to work.
I know. I'm waiting for him to get a little bit older, but
There you
my
go.
kids have been very good with it.
There's a few things, if I may, and tell me if this feels true relative to you or not. There's a few things you've said that I've kind of pieced together. That early on you stayed curious and you asked questions and you stayed engaged with the process along the way, and continuing received coaching and were receptive to that coaching and invited it. And then you've said a couple of times, listen to those who came before you.
Yes.
And I think for my younger leaders listening, know that Mary and I were once where you are. And we know that at your age, when you're first starting out, you've got plans and a vision and you want to do it for yourself. And please do. But I also know and wholeheartedly support, listen to those who came before. And just listening doesn't mean they're going to change your style. It just means take the nuggets that resonate with you, take the information that they're providing you, and then you have the choice to take or leave
Yeah.
whatever they give you. But if they're engaging in you and they're willing to share, count yourself lucky, because not everybody has that. Not everybody has those older, more experienced mentors that say, I want to help you get ahead and learn faster, quicker, and easier than I did.
Right.
So, Mary, having said all that, does that sound about right for you? The curiosity and asking questions and staying engaged and
Very much so. And even now I am a mentor at the office for, like, say, a young agent who just got their realtor license. I'm asked time and time again if I would be their mentor. And it's like, yes, because I can tell you things that I didn't do. I didn't do the door knocking. I didn't do the cold calling. I had one gal, she was very shy, and I was asked to mentor her, and I said, sure, she had another job, which I did too. When I started out, I was still working full time at another place and doing realty on the side until I just started getting more busy and stuff. But I met with her one day over lunch. She said, well, I can do it over my lunch hour. We'll meet, and you explain to me what I kind of need to start doing. And I met with her and I said, so, have you done any open houses, or would you like to? You can shadow me. Oh, no, I haven't done any. Do I have to? And I said, well, you want to get to meeting people who are out looking at houses because they're going to buy, some point. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. And I said, have you done any cold calling? You go on to Bizman online and you have a for sale by owner, give them a call. Tell them you want to meet with them. And she had this deer in the headlights look.
yeah.
And it's like, is this what I have to do? And I said, yep. To start out, maybe you can help them sell their house. And she goes, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to go door knocking and everything. And I said, well, I kind of said I wouldn't do door knocking, and I did. I did a couple weekends to try it. Not my favorite thing, but I did it. Same with cold calling. You call those for sale by owners. And she just totally refused. And by the end of that year, she was putting her license in what we call Missouri land and not being a realtor anymore, because it was just overwhelming for her. I hear so many young people, they'll go, oh, you have the perfect job. You get to show houses and make money.
Yep.
And honey, if it was that easy, then everybody would be a realtor. And we do have a lot of realtors in the Bismarck Mandan area. But it's not easy. You have to take a lot on yourself, and you have to, so I love being a mentor. And I had a mentor when I started, and I loved her. She gave me great advice. You have to take it and you have to make it your own.
Right.
Take those rocks that everyone gives you and you pick out the ones that are going to work for you, but you have to work at it too.
Well, and a good mentor will do just that. They'll not only like guide and support and be your personal rock to lean on, but they'll also tell you the truth. They're going to be honest with you and tell you what it's going to take.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you shared that story, because it's one of two things. Either, good, she got out of real estate because she realized that's not her cup of tea and she'll be better served and serve others better in another role. Or you can be the person that hears that and says, oh, that sucks. I don't want to do that, but I really love the idea of being an agent. And that's when you pull the pants up and go, okay, what's it going to take? Let's do this. Right.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with either, and I think that's a good point to know as well, that if you've tried and you've put the effort in, it might not be for you, and that's okay. Go find your jam, right? Go
Yep,
find what you're going to
absolutely.
excel at.
Yep.
Now, speaking to, the hard work, this industry is known for severe, cyclical ups and downs. And so, what's your best advice to anyone in any industry? Because there are ups and downs in every industry, maybe not quite, it doesn't look exactly like yours, but they're there. How do you navigate those and survive them and come out a better, stronger leader in the end?
Well, overall, especially with ours, and I think every, like you said, every industry has that to a point, whether it's someone who knows that they could work harder and move up the chain. In our industry, it's like, well, how can I be a better realtor, that if somebody knows they're going to be buying or selling, that I'm going to be top of their mind and not someone else, and why should it be that way? So you're always looking at what's going on and what's happening, and then you have to reinvent that wheel to fit it. And if you can't, you might have to go back to a different part-time job again for a little while, and
Right.
or you step it up and just say, you know what, I've got to. You might be spending more in advertising. There's some years when, if it seems like it's a little slow, well, now I'm really going to have to bump up my advertising. I don't really have the money for it, but yes, when I was busy, I kind of put that money aside. And that's what I tell my young people is, just because you're making money, don't go spend it.
Don't go spend
You
it.
might
Yes.
have to save it for another time.
You tapped into a number of key leadership skills there, right? So one is planning. If you think you can jump in and it's all going to be gravy and successful, it will not be. There's a lot of planning, and that's planning. And how do I save? How do I plan ahead for the good and the bad times? There's flexibility, right? An ability to
Very much.
adjust with the times and the trends. There's adapting to and accepting change, because as we've all seen in the last 3 years since pandemic,
Yep,
we are not in control of some of the things that change around us. And
absolutely.
then there's creative thinking, like you said. So maybe you have to think outside the box and do something different than you've normally done to get the same result. So I would just ask, before we close, are there any final thoughts that you'd have to share? Any questions that you kind of wish I'd asked, or a topic to cover?
Sometimes change isn't always that bad, that you
Right.
need to change it. Kind of look at, what's happening and stuff. And sometimes, yes, change is absolutely the way to go. But don't be afraid to step in and have some interest in whatever they're doing. I mean, I've done so many different things before I've done this as a full time. I coached seventh grade girls volleyball for 11 years. Um, and that was just a joy. I got to know families, and I got to know more about the girls than I really wanted to. But
Yeah,
I mean,
you do when you're a sports coach. More about the whole family
I know
sometimes.
everything about you, and I was like, oh, dear. But I mean, it was fun. I was on the board for our church. I wanted to tap in and do different things just to see, and to know more about stuff. And that's what I think every business is don't be afraid to just say, hey, I want to know more about this, or I want to be involved. I want to do stuff, because that's how leadership becomes.
Now, one last question on that point is, for the listeners who consider themselves introverts or didn't have, let's say, the Mary influence in their home that said, let's go do this, we're going to take on the challenge, who don't have a mentor in place and are constantly fearing for making a choice, because we say, don't be afraid to do this, don't be afraid to do that. But I do work with a lot of people who have ingrained thoughts and fears. How what's your best advice for helping them push through, navigate, overcome that for themselves?
Well, sometimes I think there might be just that one person out there, whether it's somebody from their church or whether it is a coworker. Start small.
Yeah.
Reach out to someone who they have kind of looked up to, or they've kind of seen, gosh, this person gets involved in all this, and that's so cool. I kind of wish I could do that, but maybe I can't. And just simply ask the question, because a lot of times the more you think about asking, and when you do that, that next person might be just thrilled and go, oh my gosh, I never thought you'd ever want to, do something like that. Let's do it.
If we have listeners that are introverts, or you're just worried about taking that first step, I can say, and I think I speak for Mary as well, that we've also been there, and it can feel overwhelming or daunting. Everything does the first time you do it. If you're not an extrovert and somebody who just thrives on like jumping off cliffs, right? It is difficult, but take that tiny step and something will happen. You'll find that momentum shifts, and you may, like Mary said, have that person that says, oh my gosh, I would love to help you. Or you may find someone who says, I'd love to, but I don't have time. And that's the rejection that we're all afraid of. The thing I would ask you to remember there is the rejection is not of you.
Right.
And the rejection is not about you in any way. They're just being honest about what they're able to take on at that time. Then step on to the next person.
Correct. And our industry is full of nothing but rejection.
True.
I think that's why I'm afraid of cold calls. I'm afraid of door knocking, because they're going to reject me. And I'm going, really? You're not going to reject me?
Do you not know me?
No,
I'm awesome.
but then you just think, okay, I'm going to go on to the next one because I won't get rejected. So yeah, I mean, you just have to face it, and some people will reject you, but they might say, I do know somebody else. If you want to join this or do that, I have somebody else that knows about this. And it's just baby steps. Take those baby steps. You have to.
Yeah, it's not biting off the whole thing. And it's one step at a time. And Mary, I thank you for all the little pearls of wisdom that you've dropped with us here today, and for sharing of your story and your experiences. Where can listeners find you? And we will be broadcasting outside of the state. This is a national and international podcast. So if you've got someone interested in coming into North Dakota, it's in North Dakota right now, how can our listeners find you?
Oh gosh. Like I said, I am a full-time realtor for Century 21 Morrison. We're located here in Bismarck, and we also have other locations in Jamestown, out in Dickinson and Beulah. We cross quite an area that we cover, and I myself cover a lot. I do have a website. It's called followmaryhome.com. You can find all my information. My telephone number is on there. I have an email, very easy. It's mary@c21morrison.com. But if you just Google Century 21 Morrison, my name should pop up there too. If it's easier to remember that, or like I said, my website.
I love that website, Follow Mary Home.
Yep.
That is perfect. Again, Mary, thank you so much for your time and of sharing of your wisdom and yourself. And folks, that is it for another episode of Illuminating Leadership. As always, thanks for tuning in. Mary, thank you again, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, bye.